So we are Mindler and we are an online mental health therapy provider. So I'm Daisy, I'm the country manager for the UK, so responsible for a kind of UK business unit.
I'm C, I take care of the product and the data side for the UK.
Okay, so a bit about Mindler. So we are as I said, digital mental health company. We're operational currently across 5 markets, so the UK, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands. We are Swedish by background, so we kind of try and bring Swedish culture to mental health solutions in the UK. And we're really committed to trying to reduce the stigma around mental health and make it accessible for everyone to get care at the time that suits them and in a way that suits them. So we currently have around 350 psychologists worldwide. That's actually increasing by the day. We're in a recruitment drive at the moment. And we are offering services across quite a few different verticals. So we have private health insurance, the NHS and the public sectors in different markets as well. We have D2C and we have B2B. So we're kind of looking for solutions that can help us fit across multiple verticals. And to make things even more complicated, we also have 4 different product offers within that. So our kind of core offering is what we call Mindler Care. So that's our online therapy and iCBT. So looking at ways that we can bring digital innovation into therapy to fix the fundamental problem, which is that there is more mental health need than psychologists in the world today. And so how do you use digital to help make sure that everyone can get access to the care that they need? Interestingly, from Paloma's perspective, we also do neurodiversity assessments. So at the moment we are doing adults, autism and ADHD assessments. And then the bit that we're going to talk in more detail about today is the Sandbox. So the Sandbox is our children and young people's therapy offer, which is operational currently in the UK, but looking for kind of expansion opportunities outside of that market. And then the Toolbox, which is a kind of tack on to the Sandbox, which is specifically for supporting children and young people with neurodiversity needs as well. So in terms of what the Sandbox is, it's a kind of tiered level of care, which I think plays into how we've used AWell and kind of how we've made the most of it as a platform. So we have a low intensity support offer, which is kind of our website with lots of downloadable resources, live chat. We do gaming live streams. We're the first ever NHS commissioned gaming live stream, which was great fun, where we get the kids to watch games and then ask questions about their mental health with a psychologist live, which is really great fun. And then we've also got our kind of medium intensity, which is our online iCBT. So these are guided self-help modules that they can work through at their own pace. And then we've got our high intensity, which is the one-to-one therapy with a qualified psychologist. So I'm going to hand over to Z now to explain a bit more about kind of how we've worked with AWell.
Cool, thank you, Daisy. Since you covered most of the pretty, I'm going to jump a bit back in time to talk about some part of the problem and what was a bit of the ugly, I will say. The title of the problem is a simple onboarding flow. It sounds simple, right? All we need to do is take patient data, collect it, and put it into our EHR system so we can start treatment. But as you can imagine, for most of you guys here, starting and building a digital clinical product from scratch is never easy. Nothing's actually simple, especially when we're doing it with essentially 0 to no technical resources back in the day. With no in-house developer, we forced ourselves to resort to third-party softwares. And one of the key tools that we were looking for was something that can help us build a simple onboarding flow, which hopefully meets the following requirements of being compliant, being engaging, so customizable, being able to do simple eligibility checks, as well as helping us scale. So for that, our tool needs to almost mirror this and be clinical safe, easy to use because we started with non-technical graduates, can support basic logic to do the eligibility checks, and then being highly customizable to be able to represent our brand, keep it engaging so children actually will want to complete a NHS onboarding form. And finally, we found, which was one of the hardest things to find, was something that can integrate within our other third-party systems. This is particularly important because I'm going to jump into the next part of our problem is the amount of manual workload that came with launching a digital product like this without the right tools. To start with, landing our first NHS contract was nerve-wracking, but very exciting at the same time. And we also realized that there was more and more like differences in new NHS contracts come in. We need to adapt really quickly to stakeholder demands and being able to mobilize very quickly as contracts come in. So we try to keep simple tools. We actually started with, back in the day, which was Cerebral, our own onboarding flow, moved on to try things like Typeform, Google Forms, just to almost bridge the gap, bridge the process. And we realized what ended up happening is that we kept a long tracker and growing number of trackers onto Google Sheet. Care coordination who take care of our patients need to manually work with these spreadsheets instead of spending what they really mean to do was take care of the patients. And there's also growing number of spreadsheets, and also we need a balance between filling out the forms manually just to balance between clinical operations as well as patient safety. This is really where we found AWOL, meeting almost all of our requirements of a simple onboarding flow builder. They are compliant, safe, really helped us in terms of all the number of compliance and essential cybersecurity and checks from the NHS. It was extremely easy to get started. Well, with a lot of help from the AWOL team, I must say, babysitting us through the start, and we're able to build our first flow relatively quickly. And now it takes us less than like I'd say a couple of minutes to really start a replica and deliver a new care form to start a new contract. And of course, the logic, the API plugins to help us navigate more complex numbers of eligibility checks. And finally, having the care ops side to help our care coordination streamline the onboarding process, because at the end of the day, we still need a human factor to onboard patients to look at what they put in, to see if they are clinically safe and put them onto the right treatment, as we have different types of treatment as a stage process. So this has been an absolute time and lifesaver for our clinical team, and they can spend more time doing what they do best, which is taking care of the patients. I just want to touch on how AWOL has also managed to bridge between our systems. As most of you guys here, AWOL becomes like a central part of how we deliver our patient care. Currently, we're mostly using it as a digital front door at the start, where patients are coming in, putting the details, being triaged, and then using AWOL. With a click of a button, our clinical team can just look through what the patient needs. They're clinically safe. Okay, one button, press, onboard it onto one of our platforms. This used to take hours when it was a more of a complex case. We would need to look at the patient details, fill out the form manually, occasionally onboard them manually. So I just believe just in last year alone, it saved around 200 hours of time for our care coordination team, and that is substantial. That just means they can do what they do best, which is taking care of our patients. And just to touch a bit more in terms of some of the capabilities and what this has unlocked for us is to be able to automate more, do things like streamline our iCBT module allocation depending on what the patient fill in, and pop up different type of questions according to the different risks that the patient may have. So yeah, it has been an absolute game changer for us.
Yeah. So in terms of the impact that introducing AWOL has had to our operational team, it's really been a complete change. It's been transformational for us. We've significantly reduced the time that it's taking us to onboard patients, which, as Zhi's been speaking about, allows us to make sure that our care coordination team are focused on care and not on the coordination element of it. So it's ensured that we've been able to secure 100% delivery against our 24-hour response time, so we can put all of our patients through and get them access to care within 24 hours, which is really important to us, particularly particularly in the NHS where we know that access is a problem. It's also increased our overall efficiency of our care coordination team by 80%. And we're finding that staff are happier because nobody really wants to be doing completely manual checks and being focused on all those things. So giving them really the time back to do the bits that they love most, like interacting with the children and making sure they're getting the outcomes that they need. So I just wanted to include a quote in here, which is from one of the young people that we've supported. And they've really identified the ease of access compared to other NHS services. We know that for lots of young people, they ask for help and immediately they're given kind of barriers to getting that help. And we wanted to just remove them all. And with the AWell onboarding flow, that's really been easy to do. I think Z touched on it before. These are children. We start at age 5, so we have to be engaging and it has to be fun, it has to be easy to use. So we've really had to put a lot of focus and energy there, and AWell have been great in helping us with that. Also just wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of commercial impact that this has had for us. So identify a kind of case study. We have had a strong working relationship with Vitality, the health insurer in the UK, for a number of years now through our adult service. And on the 1st of March, they said to us, how do you feel about taking on children? We said, 1st of February. And we said, yeah, that's fine. When do you want us to do it? And they said, 1st of March, please. And we're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And with AWell, that was possible. I think historically that wouldn't have been possible for us to do because of the lead times on building flows and getting in implementation. And instead we had the flexibility to deliver our offering in a different way. So insurance has different requirements than the NHS, there's different validation, but it was able to adapt and change accordingly. So we're up and running, we're seeing patients, and we haven't had any issues at all. We kept thinking we've missed something, this isn't meant to be as easy. So it was really, and so did Vitality. They were like, are you sure you're okay to do this? We're like, yeah, we're all good. So I think what's really nice is it's changed the way that we can have commercial conversations. So instead of having to be able to say, okay, this is what we can give you, does that work for you? We can ask the question, what do you want and how can we make that happen for you, which really switches you from being a supplier to being a partner, which is always the way we want to interact with our customers. So I think it's really been a game changer for us in terms of not just the operational but also our kind of commercial flexibility. And I think one thing that's probably worth mentioning is at Mindler we're probably quite unique from the AWell community in that we do also have our own inbuilt systems which we use, which Aaron's kind of responsible for, but what AWell gives us is the flexibility to kind of choose what's right for the patients and what's right for the customers. So we have that kind of adaptability and flexibility. So yeah, I think that's
it.
our story. Yeah.